Hello, friends. This is Alia Jamal, the love coach, and we are meeting for another love circle. And today we are talking about unconditional worthiness. That is the core of unconditional self-love or love for any other person. When we don't have our worthiness placed at an unconditional space, that is when we find it so difficult to love ourselves unconditionally. And that is also when we find very hard to love other people unconditionally. Most of the relationships where we think that we actually love the other person, if you have a conversation with me, I can show you how you don't. You are just doing a bargain with the other person. You are in I think it's called a barter trade or whatever it is. I give you this, you give me that. It's not really love. It's not really energy of love. And true love is unconditional. But you cannot get there unless your worthiness is unconditional. And that is something you create within you. So today we'll be working on one of the core aspects of unconditional self-love, how to get there, and that is unconditional worthiness. So first, let's look at what is worthiness. Worthiness is generally a self-image that you have of yourself unconsciously that you're projecting out in the world. For example, let's say you want this amazing, 10-bedroom home. And as soon as you dream that, maybe you went to a seminar, they were teaching, think big, and now you're trying to think big. I remember personally when I visited a 5-bedroom home, I believe it was just a year after I became a single parent and I was single. And, now I want to think big. I want to have those goals. But once I went into that house to look at it, the first thought was, this is too big for me. Can I really have it? This is too much. How would I live here all by myself? All those thoughts are coming from our unconscious mind. And all those thoughts are actually what creates our reality. And all those thoughts is the unconscious self-image we have of ourselves. If you would have asked me in that time, I would tell you I am this confident, fearless person and I can make anything happen. But when we put ourselves in a different situation, when we put ourselves in a new situation where we are stretching ourselves, that is when we get to see what's hidden. And of course, in that moment, we want to be aware so we can catch it. So I was aware, I caught it, got home, worked on it, and kept moving forward. So that is how we catch this self-image that is within us. Now, let's say if I walk into a room full of people and I feel like I am just as wonderful as they are, and I have no hesitation to walk up to somebody and shake hands with them and have a chit chat with them, that means my unconscious self-image is at a much higher level. And I know personally, I'm not there. I'm still working on it. Just last night, I was in a room full of maybe 5,000 people. I connected with maybe three on purpose, and the rest it is just floating there. And this has nothing to do with your introvert, your extrovert. It has to do with how you see yourself unconsciously. And then there is those teachings where we are pushing ourselves, we are trying to be something we are not, we are faking it. I am not talking about that. I am talking about who you really are. Being very honest with yourself, stop lying to ourselves, and really look at ourselves without judging ourselves where we are so we can change where we want to go, or we can transform where we want to go. Because if we are not honest, if we don't know how I see myself and I'm just lying to myself, no growth is going to happen. So worthiness or whatever worth that we say, it's a self-image. Now, living in this physical experience, generally, how do we define our worth? which college you went to, how rich your parents were, which neighborhood you lived in, how much is in your bank account, how much student loan you have after you graduate, who are you marrying, how many kids you're having, what car you're driving, what salon you go to, and these days, what med spa you go to, how much face treatment you're getting, how much, like, other body parts treatment you're getting. That is how we feel worthy. A person who's just coming out of high school, if they have a really amazing job, they are going to feel so worthy. They're just going to, like, walk a little bit like this in the street. So what's happening there? We are conditioned from a very young age. Part of the physical experience, you are what you have. And one of the core aspect of that I work with my clients, especially my female clients, is not being married. If they are not married, they have no worth. But if they are married or they have a boyfriend or they have a man by their side or any partner, whatever gender they choose to be, then they are somebody because then everybody treats them differently. And I have personally experienced it when I used to be married, not married, how things shifted, how people just back off a little bit because they're just like, oh, you're just a single person now. And what happens, we take it as true. So there's a lot of people who are walking around feeling sad and miserable inside because they don't have X. That X could be a partner, it could be a spouse, it could be a child, or it could be a fancy car, a fancy home, or an abundant salary, whatever that thing is that is missing from their life. That is exactly what conditional worth is. I will feel worthy when I have that. So I need to work really hard so I can have that. There's so many young people from my generation who are trying to retire at 45 because apparently that is how you are worthy. Apparently, if you're 40 and you still have not visited at least 10 countries, you're not worthy. So this is how we are carrying so much stress because our worthiness is conditional. It depends what you have and what you possess. And a lot of people they go back to school to get a second master's, to get this, to get that, just so they can add more like letters at the end of their name so they can feel more worthy. But you know what happens with conditional worth when our worth is depending on something outside of us? There is a massive fear of losing it. Because if you're feeling you're somebody because you're living in the richest neighborhood in one of the biggest house and you feel like you're somebody, you're always going to be afraid, what if I lose this house? What if something happens financially, financial crisis, or this or that, or I get sick and I can't work and I can't pay the mortgage or the taxes on it, and then I lose the house? That fear, that perceived fear, is what we call stress. And all the things that, as in an adult life, we're so married to our stress. We brag about our stress. Life is hard, life is stressful. I'm so stressed. I'm stressed all the time. This is because I am so stressed. We love our stress. But where that stress is coming from, it's coming from that deep-seated fear. What if I lose it all? Now, I work with people who are very, very, very happily married, but they struggle with the fear all day long. What if my partner leaves me? What if we end up getting divorced? Why that fear is there? That fear can only be there if your worth is attached to that person. If you think you're nobody if this person leaves you, if you think you're nobody if you get laid off from your current job or you have to degrade your title, the only reason why you will be so afraid of losing money if your worth was tied to that money. The only reason you'll be feeling so empty and destroyed if your kids go to college and now you're an empty nester if your worth was attached to just being a parent and serving them. It has nothing to do with the love that we have for them. Love is a completely different story. Right now, we are working on the fear that we have. Fear of losing comes when the worth is conditional. So I think I have hammered enough about what is worth and where most of us are. Now let's talk about what is unconditional worth and how do we even get there? Unconditional worth is when nothing outside of me can define me. So let's think about it again. When nothing outside of me can define me. So how is that going to look like when my bank account does not define me? I can have zero in it, or I can have a billion in it, but I feel the same. Now, this is the hardest part. I have zero in it, I have a billion in it. I feel the same about myself. My self-image stays the same whether I have a zero in my bank account, whether I have a million or billion in my bank account. Whether I have a loving partner or I don't have a loving partner, I feel the same about myself. I see myself the same. Now, this, my friend, most of you are going to say, oh, yeah, I love myself even if I'm single. I'm going to challenge you to be honest with yourself and stop lying to yourself because the truth that I'm talking about is many layers deep. So if you're one of those people who stay on the surface, you're into self-care and you're like, life is good and I'm good, you're not going to get to this unconditional worthiness level. And that's why to work with me is 1 year minimum to get to the unconditional self-love. It does require peeling off layers and really seeing the truth within us. Because on the surface, all of us lie to ourselves. I catch myself lying to myself on weekly basis where I think I am this way, but actually I'm not. And how I know it, looking at my physical reality. Just last Thursday, I discovered a huge lie that I was holding on within me and feeling so bad about it. And my mentor helped me see that. So if you're willing to be truthful to yourself without judging yourself, that is the key. Most of us, we are so afraid to um, stop lying to ourselves and really focusing on the truth within us because then we'll end up judging ourselves. Then we'll say, what's wrong with me? Why I'm doing this to myself? No judgment. This is a no judgment zone because we are here with curiosity to see where are the energy leakage within us and how we can repair those holes. So whether you have kids or you don't have kids, you feel exactly the same. Whether you have billion friends or you have zero friends, you feel the same. I am talking about that is the level of unconditional worthiness. And that is something I'm working on all day long, every single day, to to get a step closer to that level. Because that is where true freedom is. That is where no matter what is happening in your physical reality, you don't get phased by it because you're fully 100% anchored within yourself. Now, let's talk about the real juicy part. How do we do that? Now, being in a physical body, living a physical experience, dealing with very physical things, bills, people, um, work issues all day long, we get stuck in the physicality of things. We forget that we are a light being having a temporary human experience, a temporary physical experience. That is the first disconnect that we have. Even the most religious people, they talk about things, they say things, but even they have a hard time to stay connected to that awareness. I'm a spiritual being just temporarily in this body. So if you truly want to discover or nurture unconditional worthiness, the path would be to connect, to realize, and to embody your non-physical self. We can call it soul, you can call it light, you can call it whatever. In my world, I call it soul. Um, be that. Not do, but be that. Now let's entertain that idea a little bit. As a soul, We all were created eons ago. And there is a power that created it, there is a power that sustained it, there is a power that is sustaining right now. So just with that, all the stresses that we carry, now I have to get a bigger house, now I have to get this, now I have to do that. Am I doing it? Or there's a power within me that is doing it? There's a power within you that is doing it. So put all your stresses in front of you and realize there's a power within you that is doing it. That power is infinite, my friend. That power cannot be defined with your bank balance. It cannot be defined with what's going on in your relationship. It cannot be defined with the work drama that you have going on or the family drama that you have going on. It cannot be defined by that. It's infinite, it's endless. So that means if you realize who is living through you, and if you take yourself out of the equation, you can become limitless, you can become endless, but you'll become uh, that force without any friction. You'll become that when you will drop the conditions in your life. When you will say, I am happy, whether somebody's with me or not, that is when you start embody that. Because that frequency of joy and happiness that comes when you're truly, genuinely, in truth, and not just lying to yourself, pretending because that's what everybody else is doing, are happy that I'm alone and I don't feel alone and I am complete in this moment. That vibration that you're emitting out into the universe, that is a match to the soul because that's how soul feels. If there is any feeling to it, that is the truth about our soul. It does not need anything physical because it's always provided. It's always provided. So when we get to that frequency of feeling, that is when we align with our soul. And that is when someone comes to you and they want you to feel bad for being single or whatever is missing in your life, but you're full of joy within you. It does not phases you because your self-image in that moment is so solid, it cannot be budged by something outside of you. That is just one example of unconditional worthiness. So it's realizing you are a soul having a human experience. The second aspect is building a deeper relationship with your non-physical self. What does that even mean? Get to know who you are outside of this body. And the easiest way you'll do it, and the only way you'll do it, yes, you can read many books, you can take lectures, you can even come talk to me. I can guide you to make that connection. But what is going to really change you sitting with yourself, closing your eyes and feeling your soul, talking to your soul. When I started that journey many, many years ago, and the very first time I could feel and see my soul, that is, when the just lid just comes off and all the steam is out and you're just a free bird, that is how I started feeling. And it continues being that way. I have gone through amazing, beautiful, challenging time in the past, whatever years we'll call. But one thing I know, I can always close my eyes. I can always reach out to that aspect of me, and I can always experience unconditional love, peace, and joy being in contact with that aspect of me. It's basically realizing who I am. We are so attached to our identity as, what ethnicity you are. And I come from a South Asian background, so there's a whole like caste system, what caste you are, what skin color you are, what kind of passport you have. We have so many divisions placed in our physical world, and we are so attached to them, and we take pride in them. Like some people really take pride in, like, this is who I am, and this is the background I come from, and these are my ancestors. How about you spend even fraction of a time realizing who you are as a soul? Like we have a whole ancestry.com, getting our DNA swab, sending it there, trying to figure out who our grandparents are. Amazing, amazing. But spend a fraction of time to discover who you are as a soul. What is the lineage you come from in your non-physical self? And you would realize that infinite expansion is so beyond your mind that once you start pondering over it, once you start asking questions about it, all your physical stresses and fears start to just drop, because it's almost like you go from looking through a peephole and now the whole door is open. There'll be much less strain on your eyes, right? That is how we feel when we start to connect and truly understand who we are as a non-physical self, the part of us that is pure light. One of the things I can share with you, when I got to that point, and I just kept hearing this voice in the meditation, remember who you are. And I took it to my mentor and I said, I just keep hearing that, remember who you are. But when I close my eyes and I try to go there, I don't feel anything. It literally felt like being in a dark room, having no idea who I am. And whenever I'm going through a growth spurt internally, I go through weeks sometime not knowing who I am, because the whole personality is reshaping. And right now I'm going through one of those weeks. And sometimes in the beginning, it used to feel so uncomfortable, not anymore, because I know whatever I think I am as a physical person is all changeable. And I can change into a completely different version of me only if I allow it. So my mentor said that, it took him almost, I believe, a year or two before he started receiving answers. So keep going to that place and keep pushing. And for me, I will say it was about a year and a half when the answers started coming, but then the 6 months were just a very different story. I really got to go so much deeper, so much deeper, and become more aware of that aspect. How does it benefit in my life? Now, when something comes in my life, and I have gone through, I would say, like, really massive big shifts in my life that would that might break any average person, but I so grateful to God that I am getting to that unbreakable point, which is so freeing. So whenever a challenge comes in my life and I want to react and I want to do all the things that we all human want to do, right away I go to who I am as a being. And I expand my energy to become one with that being, and I just stay there. And I look at everything from that expansive place, a being that has existed for eons. My lifespan might be what, maybe 100. And that being also has the wisdom of the whole universe. So it's right away going from, like, something pinching you and you go so expanded. In my world, that is a freedom. That is the freedom that people are willing to pay any price to get to. But that is the inner work that you'll get to do. You can always reach out to me and I can facilitate that for you. But we are talking about unconditional worthiness. One, becoming aware who you are in your truth. And that is not this physical body, my friend. And that is not this physical life. The second is nurturing that relationship, dedicating time, maybe study, maybe working with somebody like me, or maybe working with me to really connect with that aspect of you. The last one is realizing You are an expression of the light or the higher power in the physical body. Now, this might be a little bit difficult for some of us to choose, especially those who are coming from a very structured religious background. So let me help you understand this with this quote. It's coming from A Course in Miracles. The truth about you is so lofty that nothing unworthy of God is worthy of you. Choose then what you want in these terms and accept nothing you would not offer to God as wholly fitting for Him. In a nutshell, treat yourself as you would treat a higher power, as you would treat God. If you will only say good things and praise to that higher power, say only good things and praise to yourself. If you will think only good thing about that higher power, think only good thing about yourself. If you are thinking about expanding physically, a bigger house, a bigger whatever, or finding a partner, or having kids, or nurturing your kids, think as big as you think God can be. Don't settle with tiny. Now, this quote can really help you redefine how you see yourself, but in at the center of this quote is treat yourself like a higher power, treat yourself like God. Because we don't realize the soul that lives in our body, it's pure light. It's an aspect of our Creator. It has those characteristics of the Creator. But when we come into the physical body, when it descends into the physical body has its own density. It has its own darkness. That's why we all have our dark side that we are trying to transform and fight with and go above and beyond it. When it comes here into this light world, we go into the darkness. But we need to remember to stay in the light. Instead of fear, stay in faith. Instead of judging, stay in acceptance. Instead of holding grudges, forgive. When we stay in that light, that is when we are embodying the divine. And that is work every single day. So when you realize that you are a divine being, a non-physical pure light having a human experience, second, you start to nurture a relationship with that aspect of you on regular basis, not only when you go for a yoga retreat once a year. And a third is when you start to realize you are physical manifestation of that higher power. When you realize that, and the last one I know is huge, it took me a year to understand that concept and really accept it and embody it. But when you realize you are the divine, you're the physical manifestation of the divine power. When you realize that, you realize you don't need anybody else. You don't need anything else. That is when you could be a homeless person living under a bridge with zero in your hand and nobody around you, and you feel complete. When you start to feel complete just for who you are, that is divine worthiness. That is unconditional worthiness. That is when you are not being controlled by this physical reality. And I will invite you, my friend, to challenge yourself to get to that level. And again, if you need assistance, you can always reach out to me. This is the work I'm here to do in this lifetime. Please feel free to reach out to me. You can DM me, you can go to my website, aliajmalcoaching.com, and you can book a consultation. I would love to be your guide. And here's my why. When I help you get there, first of all, I'm helping myself. I'm receiving support from my mentors every single day to get to that unconditional worthiness. When I help you get there, you become a much brighter light than you are right now. And the world needs our light right now, my friend. When you work on yourself, that is when you're truly helping the world right now. We all want world peace. We want to leave a better world for our kids, but where it's going to start, the world is within you. If you're seeing chaos outside of you, there must be chaos within you. When you resolve that, you heal the world, when you heal yourself. So with that, we are ending for today. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you next Thursday. Bye.